And now let's try and tune in to no good music from an undisclosed location somewhere in New Jersey. Bon Jovi's new album marks a new low point for the band.
Oh, I thought that was back in 91.
Oh, so and then his glasses would come off, and he'd be like, "I'm sexy."
People love music, and musicians love musicians.
I just cried my eyes out because I was so honored. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I thought I would hear just a little, like, you know.
Yeah.
I just was looking at it from the standpoint of, can you imagine him drumming for, with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers? That's amazing.
Yeah. Hello, guys. So he's going. Da 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 da. Ba 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 ba.
So where is the puppet? Like, who has the puppet?
So, I don't know if it's alive or not.
Yeah, where is he?
This is Rob.
And Jeremy.
We will go into our top 10 from last year, 2024. So, do you want me to start? Or?
Sure. Go ahead.
So, we're doing our top 10. I have a couple honorable mentions. Do you want to go back and forth?
That's fine. Sure.
I have them from 10 down.
So do I.
So, my first one, and it pains me to say, but she did make the list, is Halsey, who I've liked a long time. Mm-hmm. She came out with a double album. And again, I think this should have been one album, and then maybe, later this year she should have released another one. Because you put a lot of work into these with vinyl. She had like 4 different variations of the album. You could switch out her face, but I don't understand buying. It's so expensive to buy an album anyway.
Right.
And I did get the. What happened was, I thought I didn't order the album, and I did, the signed version, and then I must have ordered the regular one.
This is the one.
So I have 2 of the same.
Nice.
But it's called The Great Impersonator. And now I'm going to talk briefly about, each one, except when I get to the top ones. I'm going to try and talk briefly. And this is her most personal album to date. And I have here, if she gets any more personal on the next album, she'll be singing about her social security number and her credit card number. It's very personal. She's gone through a lot of health problems. And some of the songs are really sad, So it kind of moved me, some of the songs. And so that was my 10.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm going to be kind of brief on.
Yeah. For me, number 10, this is more probably nostalgia than anything else, but it was Sebastian Bach's Child Within the Man album that came out.
Oh, okay.
If you don't know, he's lead singer of he was the lead singer of Skid Row. I've always loved Sebastian Bach's musical, like his charisma, his ability to hit notes that are just insane.
Yeah.
And even if you watch, some of the music shows that are out there that they still show on like Access One or whatever some of those shows are, he's always got great commentary on music just in general.
Yeah.
So when I saw an album was coming out, I was like, oh my God, I got to listen to it. So it made my list mostly because I've listened to it a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
even know he had an album out.
Yeah, it came out back in, April, May, something like that. May 10th.
Oh, okay. I'd go see him, at a small place.
I would love to see Sebastian Bach. So yeah, that was my number 10.
So my number 9 is Jeremy's most hated album from last year.
Okay.
Linkin Park.
Yeah.
From Zero.
Yeah.
I think the songs kind of kick ass to me. And of course, there's mixed reviews on this one. I have diehard Linkin Park fans hate this album. Don't think they should have continued after the lead singer's suicide in 2017. It's been that long. favorite song, The Emptiness Machine. I think that was the first single they released. And she shares singing duties with founding member Mike Shinoda. And most people don't get it, is that he kind of started the band, but Chester, what's his name, Bennington?
Yeah.
Was also the singer and kind of propelled the band.
Right.
But Mike was one of the founding members, and he decided to continue. You know, I mean, he could have called it something else and just continued as something else.
Right.
But then people would have been like, oh, they're trying to sound like Linkin Park. So why not just keep the name? I don't know.
Yeah.
And bands do continue at different, you know, when a lead singer passes away or just quits. You know, look at AC/DC. I mean, come on. What other band, like, you know, their lead singer dies, they get a new one, and they, oh my God, they sell millions and millions of albums.
Right.
So,
number 9 for me. You might not be surprised about this, but it's so low on my list because it's not one of my more favorite albums of hers, but I have Taylor Swift's Tortured Poets Department.
okay, well, we can both talk about it because that's my number 7.
There you go. Okay, so it made your list at least.
Yeah.
It's look, Taylor Swift always puts out good music. It's always enjoyable. We both love her music. This album, though, I like it, but I don't like it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It just it was, I don't know, it was different for her, and it didn't fit for me, at least. And I like her more upbeat, even when she's doing like sobby love songs. Like they're fun. I don't know.
Yeah, this was kind of a depressing, I think, album. But I think she should slow down. I mean, it's incredible what she's done in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. You know, she's recorded 3 albums in the last 2 years. And 2 are the re-recorded albums, Speak Now in 1989.
Right.
And 1 was the new studio album, The Tortured Poets Department. But how many songs has she recorded in just 2 years total? 75.
Yeah.
75.
While doing a tour.
Yeah, and it's amazing. She's been touring since March of 2023.
Yep.
And in the midst of touring, she re-recorded 2 albums.
She goes to all the Kansas City Chiefs home and away games.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe she started recording before the tour. I don't know. But, I mean, look, Billy Idol. Do you know Billy Idol recorded 4 songs in the last 2 years? 4 songs.
Yeah.
4. Billy, come on.
Yeah.
Well, he's up there in age. Now, I do like this album more, I think, more than Midnight's. I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up. You know, it might be a...
Right.
I think I need to listen. I have this album on vinyl. I have most of Taylor Swift's albums now. Mm-hmm. But I'm just, like, amazed. A lot of her albums have, like, 25 songs on them. They're like, what? You know. And, yeah, not all of them are great. Now, songs I liked on this one are Down Bad, and something about Taylor singing Fuck It 16 times in this song. And yeah, it's not for kids. All these like young girls and are going with their parents to see Taylor, and maybe I would hope she does non-explicit like songs. She takes those words out or changes them.
Right.
You know. I simply love Who's Afraid of Little Old Me because of all the haters, you know. You know, she wrote a song about the haters before.
Right.
Hate, you know. But I think it's a great song because people are afraid. They're literally afraid of Taylor Swift.
People are terrified of her.
Yeah.
They won't say it publicly, but they'll bash her. That's their way of trying to, you know, bring her down.
Yeah. I love the song Florida. I think it's very unique. Mm-hmm. I love the chorus, and when they sing the word Florida and the drums kick in, it's just that, you know, they say Florida and then, you know, and it features Florence and the Machine. I don't know if you know that on Florida.
Yep.
And it's kind of a dark song. Here's some of the lyrics on this. And I wrote more on this, even though it's number 7 for me, because it's Taylor Swift. So I did my best to lay to rest all the bodies that have ever been on my body. And in my mind, they sink into the swamp. And then, this is funny, is that, they actually sing this. Is that a bad thing to say in a song?
Right.
Yeah. So pretty wacky.
Yep.
You know, she's turning 35 this year. So anyway. But again, I have, you know, it's not real. She's not really for kids totally, you know.
Right.
For like 12-year-old girls. I mean, she is a 35-year-old woman. And not all her songs are explicit, but... And maybe the kids like the beat. And, you know, when you're a kid, when you're that young, you don't really understand what they're saying. But
right.
I don't think being a parent, you know, my son's 21 now, but he can listen to whatever he wants. But when he was 12, I definitely didn't want him to listen to a song where someone said fuck 16 times in a song, right? So my next...
Number 8.
Yeah, is Iron and Wine, called Light Verse. And it's a singer-songwriter. It's actually a person, Sam Beam. He just goes by the name Iron and Wine. Smooth voice, pleasant music. And I have here, I picture people in office cubicles blasting this album and dancing around singing. I don't know why. Now, my favorite song, Fiona Apple duet on this. Fiona Apple comes out of retirement. All in Good Time. And it's a really great song. From the point of a couple going back and forth, remembering all the good times over the years and maybe facing their twilight years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just it's an incredible song. All in Good Time. So check that out. Iron and Wine. So that was my number 8. And then you're on your number 7, right?
No, I'm on 8. You did your 7.
Yeah.
For 8, I have Pearl Jam, Dark Matter, which I think you also listened to.
I actually don't have that on my list.
Oh, okay. Good album, not their best by any stretch, but I think it was just exciting to hear some new Pearl Jam material. I think I mentioned it on our last podcast now, but I've been listening to a lot of Pearl Jam lately.
Yeah.
So this has also been in the rotation, and it's just, you know, it's them. It's their sound is unique. Not unique, but they have a sound.
Yeah.
And you know when a Pearl Jam song is on, and this album, you know, matched that.
You know, I don't think I even listened to that album. I might have listened to the one single.
Really?
I have to give that a listen.
Yeah, no, it's not my favorite album, but I mean, for 2024, it made my list, and I've listened to it a couple of times now, so
yeah,
it's at least, you know, tolerable enough, I guess, that I enjoy it.
Okay. So what?
Oh, number 7, I have Usher, actually, Coming Home.
Usher?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
You know, it's funny because Usher is not... He has some rap stuff out there, but I don't think of him as rap. I think of him not even as hip-hop. It's more of... I don't know, like a alternative rock kind of
sound. Kind of soulful, maybe?
Yeah. But, you could correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he's performing at the Super Bowl this year. And that's how I kind of stumbled onto, like, give this album a listen. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed it. So it's one of those things where I'm not like a big Usher fan or anything like that. But I can tolerate, he's, you know, R. Kelly is not a name that you like to mention anymore, but there's a few of those types of artists. The Weeknd we talked about on the last show that I really enjoyed. Just Bruno Mars is a great example of someone I just love listening to their music. They've got a great vocal, you know, asset to them. And I would say Usher is kind of in there where I do like his vocal stuff that he sings. I love his performances. Seal was another one I really liked as a kid.
Yeah, I like Seal.
So yeah, I mean, he just kind of falls into that little small genre of people that I enjoy outside of the typical rock or heavy metal type of stuff that I typically listen to. So yeah, Usher made my list.
So number 6 is Dua Lipa.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. It's ridiculous, I have to say Dua Lipa like 10 times, but Radical Optimism. This is her third studio album, and I have to say it's not as good as the first two, but I still love Dua. The cover is Dua confronting a shark. It's one of my worst fears, Dua getting eaten by a shark. Jeez. She likes to be on islands and stuff and in bikinis, and, you know, so there is a chance, you know, she might. Favorite songs are These Walls. If these walls could talk, this is a lyric, they'd say, you know, they'd say, you're fucked. It's about trying to stay in a relationship, but, you know, I think kind of having a front with people that everything's fine, but if these walls could talk, they'd know what was really going on.
Right.
Training Day I liked, and French Exit. I think she could sing the phone book, you know. I think she's just awesome.
You're awesome.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, that's my number 6.
All right. Number 6, I have the Black Crowes, Happiness Bastards.
Oh, okay.
Their first album since they kind of got back together in 2019. And I think for this one, you know, I heard Wanting and Waiting, which was the single that came out early in the year last year. Mm-hmm. So the build up to it coming out in March, you know, I was excited for it. And I remember listening to it quite a bit when it first came out. I haven't listened to it recently, but I enjoyed it, and I'll definitely go back to it. Black Crowes are one of those bands I'd actually love to see them live.
I think they were at Wind Creek in Bethlehem.
Were they?
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Counting Crows.
Yeah. I like them too.
Yeah, but I've seen them live and I was disappointed. So, but yeah, Happiness Bastards, new album for the first time in 6 years?
Oh yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Well, yeah, they're two brothers like Oasis, you know, that are fighting.
Yep.
Or were fighting, and they're back together. I saw the Black Crowes once, and it was at the Peach Festival in Scranton. That was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 5 is The Cure, Songs for a Lost World. This took a little while to grow on me, but I've listened to it 3 or 4 times.
That's also on my list, for the record.
I listened to this. We went to North Carolina for Christmas. We were in a hotel, and before I went to sleep the one night, I laid there and listened to this album. So and The Cure's good for that, you know.
Yep.
Not putting you to sleep, but I could really tune out everything and listen to the lyrics. This is the first album in 16 years. I think it's just a great album. Favorite song, I Can Never Say Goodbye. Classic Cure. It's got a 2-minute and 23-minute intro before Robert Smith even starts singing. So it kind of reminded me of, what's that called? Disintegration. There we go. That album, Disintegration. A lot of instrumental stuff. You know, there are vocals, of course, but there's a lot, you know, like that song reminded me of, you know, something off of that album, Disintegration. So, and I'd like to see The Cure, but, you know, with ticket prices these days for the bigger tours, you know,
gotta pick and choose.
I mean, Jeremy and I, you know, we're going to see AC/DC, and it wasn't cheap, so.
Right.
And don't really have any other concerts, unfortunately, planned. Maybe some little ones that come up. Maybe we'll see Mammoth again. I know we will.
That's the one I want to see in July with Creed and Daughtry.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I got to have a job first.
Yeah.
Number 5 for me, Kings of Leon.
Okay.
Leon, however you say it. Can We Please Have Fun? Have you ever listened to them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like their music just in general, but this was actually their first album to not be released on their original label.
Okay.
This one came out Love Tap Records and Capitol Records. They're considered like alternative rock, garage rock type of band.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I have a trend, as you can probably tell with my list. It's bands that I tend to like that have something new out.
Or more rock.
Yeah.
You're more rock. I mean, I like all kinds, but
Right.
I don't think I have any real rockin' albums on here.
And then,
Linkin Park, yeah.
Yeah. And then actually, since you just talked about it, The Cure was number 4 for me. So if you want to do your next 2.
Oh, okay. So my next one is Gracie Abrams, The Secret of Us. In the vein of Phoebe Bridgers and the moody girl, all moody girls of the world. She may be the new queen of depressing songs. But lyrically brilliant, and her voice just, if a voice could cry, I mean, it just, it's hard to describe it, I've known about her for a couple of years now. She was just on SNL. And her father is actually director J.J. Abrams. Favorite songs, I Love You, I'm Sorry, and Tough Love. But I really like the entire album. And the funny thing is when I heard the song Us, it's just called Us on the album, I said, wow, that sounds like a Taylor Swift song. She's channeling Taylor Swift. And but it turns out she wrote this song with Taylor, and Taylor is actually singing on the song.
Oh, there you go.
And Taylor Swift, wow, she sounds like Taylor Swift. So Gracie Abrams, it's a really it's kind of a depressing album, and it's about relationships and stuff, but I still, I don't know, I have a tendency to listen to stuff like that, and even younger singers, because you can still, my wife and I have been married for I don't know how many years, like 29 years, almost 30 years.
No,
but I still feel for people that are in bad relationships, and that still kind of talks to me, and it reminds me of when I first started dating and all that stuff. But if it's got a good, flow to it, it's got, good music, it's good music. So
yep.
So that was my number 4.
Yeah, my number 4 was The Cure, so you can go to 3.
Okay. So my top 3, I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, but so this band is called Waxahachie. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, Waxahachie. Tiger's Blood. I listened to this when it first came out. I've actually talked about it before. I did a short video on Facebook. Now, the first thing that caught my attention was the lead singer's voice. With the first song, Three Sisters, her voice, it hits you immediately. And if you're a music historian like myself and Jeremy, or maybe we're just hysterical about music, but I'm like, wow, she sounds like, and right away I noticed how much she sounded like Edie Brickell. I don't know if Jeremy knows Edie Brickell.
I don't.
She had a song called what was it called? What I Am.
What I am is what I.
Yeah,
that one. Okay.
Yeah. Now, not many people are into yodeling singers. Her voice forms at times some sort of yodel, but somehow it's melodic, like a melodic yodel.
Okay.
Her name is Catherine Crutchfield. That's the singer. She goes by Katie Crutchfield. And then let's see. Oh yeah, and then Edie, ended up marrying I don't know if most people know a little person, and his name's Paul Simon. Yeah. So she's still married to him.
Okay.
Oh, and Edie's performed with Steve Martin too recently.
Nice.
So Waxahachie, it's an American indie music project formed in 2010 by singer-songwriter Catherine Crutchfield. The band is named after Waxahachie Creek in Alabama, where she grew up. And it was originally an acoustic solo project, and her recordings now tend to involve a full backing band. And there are a couple of songs you hear a male voice. And I was really getting into the album. The second song, Evil Spawn, it's called. It's actually a beautiful song. All of a sudden, a male voice breaks in, you know. And then his name's MJ Lenderman. He plays electric guitar, and he also lends his harmonies on track 2, 4, 5, and 12. And as Waxahachchee, she has released 6 solo studio albums to date. And this one I'm talking about is Tiger's Blood, it's called. It was nominated for the 2025 Grammy Award, Best Americana Album. She's also a member of the country duo Plains alongside Jess Williamson. Now, some of my favorite songs are Ice Cold. She says in the song, I'll never have another burning hot. So the lyrics are a little hard to decipher, but I think she's talking about a burning love she had, and it has now burnt out. Not like burning hot, flaming hot Cheetos or something like that, you know.
Right.
Now, my favorite song is Right Back to... Oh, my God. My favorite song is Right Back to It. And MJ Lenderman's on this, too. And she explained the song's story in a press release. She said, I'm really interested in writing love songs that are gritty and unromantic. I wanted to make a song about the ebb and flow of a long-time love story. I thought it might feel untraditional, but a little more in alignment with my experience to write about feeling insecure or foiled in some way internally, but always finding your way back to a newness and an intimacy with the same person. So being in a relationship for a long time, trying to still find, you know, new things that you're excited about. Yep. And it's just beautifully written. You have a banjo in there, you know, bass, electric guitar, drums. And then the music video for the song was shot at Cato Lake in Texas. And if you saw the movie, you know, some strange things go on up there. Cato Lake, that's a horror movie. Mm-hmm. And it depicts Crutchfield and Lenderman singing the song together as they ride in. And I don't know if this is a typo, but it said a lowboat. And I couldn't even find out what a lowboat is, but I think it's a canoe. But and she developed the video concept, which is an idea she had for over a decade. It was inspired by the video for the Lemonheads, Mrs. Robinson, where they float across Boston Harbor. She pitched the idea for it for previous videos, but her team considered it a logistical nightmare. I guess to film on the water, I don't know.
Right.
And other songs to check out are Bored, Lone Star Lake, Wolves. And I pretty much love the entire album. Like I said, I've listened to this like 5 times. I don't know. There is a song I don't like called 365. And her voice is pretty shrill on this one. I actually think this song shouldn't be on the album because the rest of it's just great. Mm. In my opinion, there are 13 songs, 47 minutes. So that was my number 3. Right. Waxahachchee, Tiger's Blood.
All right. My number 3 are pretty interchangeable. Actually, tough to rank them. But for number 3, one of your favorite bands, I know how much you dislike them, which I don't understand, but that's okay. Imagine Dragons.
I knew you were going to say
Loom.
Okay.
I went and saw this tour. I played the album leading up to the tour so that I was up to date on the new music, because you always know, you know, they're going to be promoting the new stuff. So I want to know what it's going to sound like before I go into it. And, you know, it was right on cue or right on par with their other albums. I really enjoyed it. Loved seeing them live. I loved the songs they chose off of the albums. It's definitely an album that I go back to and still listen to now.
Yeah.
So this will be one of those that stays on my, you know, favorite list. And
you know, maybe I need to listen to them more because I only know them from their hits.
Yeah.
which I'm not real crazy about.
I know, because I had a free ticket for you, and you didn't want to go.
So maybe they have other songs that sound different. I don't know.
But I love them.
I don't see them doing ballads or anything.
It's one of my easily one of my favorite current bands that are out there.
Okay. So my number 2, Maggie Rogers, Don't Forget About Me. It's her 3rd studio album. She was born in Easton,
Pennsylvania?
Maryland.
Okay.
Maryland. I have a little ... because we're by Easton, Pennsylvania. She first performed songs from the record at tour stops in her 2023 tour supporting her 2nd studio album.
Oh, I thought it was on the Breakfast Club.
What? Let's see here.
Don't you forget about me.
She co-produced the album herself with additional assistance from Ian Fitchuk at the Electric Lady Studios in New York. She wrote 8 of the 10 songs with Fitchuk, while 2 are entirely self-penned. In a letter, she announced her goal to have been the creation of a record that was akin to a Sunday afternoon. I don't know what that means. It's kind of another album that flows. It's kind of mellow. So, Sunday, lazy Sunday, maybe.
Yeah.
And on January 1st, 2024, she previewed a snippet of a song titled "Don't Forget About Me," with a caption saying "See you in 2024." And to her, the song signifies a rough journal entry about attending festivities from friends while she craves simple bass lines and finds herself in a different place in her life. I'm going to tell you a couple of the songs. Track 4 is The Kill. The Kill. I love this song. Interesting song. One of the more upbeat songs. Upbeat meaning an upbeat, 5 on the upbeat scale, not AC/DC upbeat. And I've heard this song, I have here that about 8 times now. I still don't know exactly what is going on in the song. And it sounds like a woman she's in a relationship, and one that she's been in with many, either men or women before. There's a reference to shoes at the door. And the lyrics changed for the chorus 3 times in this song. She says, "The shoes you laid down for me from the girls that came before." Girls is then changed to guys, and guys is then changed to ones. So, you were all the way in, I was halfway out the door. Oh, you were an animal making your way up the hill, and you were going in for the kill. But one of the times she sings the last line, she says, "And I was going in for the kill." So she's changed the lyrics around a little bit. I'm thinking it's like a relationship where she broke up, they got back together,
Right.
I don't know.
On and off type of thing.
Yeah. And then one's pursuing the other again. I don't know, like an animal. But it has a kind of a Haim feel to it. The band Haim.
Okay.
Or however you say their name. Some people say Haim. Track 7, On and On. This is actually my least favorite song. I just don't like the song. Come on, people. You can't be Corey Feldman and knock every song out of the park. No, I don't have a Corey Feldman soundbite. I should, though.
Damn.
Track 9, All the Same. I said, wow, if a song could cry, it would be this one. It's such a sad song. It's about a relationship ending. And I guess remembering back to when it was great. I'm going to jump around here. Yeah, and then track 10, Don't Forget About Me. I feel this song should be more in the beginning of the album, because it's the title of the album. But it's, it's the last song on the album. Kind of reminded me of Melissa Etheridge, you know, I can hear her singing the song, and it's another sad song. And I have here, I think sometimes people spend more time on social media complaining about stupid shit and not giving much time to music. You know, music like what Maggie Rogers is making, you know, it'll move you, it'll make you think, and, you know, and so the opening lines of the song sets up the song talking about her friend getting married, says, and to me this sounds scary, I'm still trying to clean up my side of the street. So, you know, getting older, I don't know how old Maggie is, she's not that young, you know. Well, she might be in her 30s, she might be approaching 40, but, you know, and seeing people get married, having kids and stuff like that, so. And I think the album has a big Taylor Swift vibe to it. And someone mentioned online, might have been on YouTube, that the piano on I Still Do sounded like Taylor Swift's the piano in New Year's Day. And I listened to them both, and it does. It sounds similar. But it's overall, I think it's a great album. And Maggie's voice has kind of a country sound to it without trying to be, you know, I think she's more country. Anybody's more country than Beyonce, but, you know, it has kind of a twang in it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my number 2.
All right. Number 2 for me was The Offspring, Supercharged. And, I mean, other than this is one of my favorite bands, there's not a lot to say about it. It's just, it's a good album. I think their last 2 albums now, I've played them quite a bit. And not so much because, what am I trying to say? Not because it's necessarily my favorite album by them, but because I love the band so much, I want to listen to their newer stuff because I've played so much of their old stuff.
Well, that's like with, like I put Halsey at 10, you know, maybe if I didn't like her other albums, you know, I might not even put her on the list. I don't know.
Right.
But you get to like, and it's kind of a, you know, I don't know what I'm, you know, when you love a band, you love a band, you know.
Right.
And and it's good to admit if some of the songs aren't as good as others, but, you know.
Right. And I've always gravitated, like The Offspring, I love their sound. They're a fast rock band, if that makes sense. A lot of their music is quick riffs on the guitar and just upscale, upbeat, high energy. Sure, there's some cursing and stuff like that, but I don't know. They almost take, like, not rap, but like turn hip hop into rock. Like Sublime did that too. They have this style about them where it's a faster bass rock energy. I don't know how to explain it, but.
And hopefully they can keep it up, you know.
Well, and that's the thing.
They're getting older now.
It's impressive to still listen to that style because it's not 1997 anymore.
Yeah.
You know, like it's 2025 now, and they still have that upbeat, up-tempo.
And people who have that type of voice, eventually as they get older, you know, we see that with Axl Rose.
Yep.
And most notably Vince Neil, who just can't, I don't know if he's forgotten the lyrics, but he's trying to, because people don't talk like that.
Right.
It's an exaggeration of a voice, I think. Like even Brian Johnson, Brian Johnson doesn't talk. He's not like, hey, how's it going, man? You know,
right.
Like Elmo or something, you know. But no, I like The Offspring. That's another album I got to give it a listen to.
The last two I've really enjoyed.
I really like the first single they released because I told you about it. And there's a girl on there that just says like one word or something, but I don't know. I love that song. And I thought it was the girl from Wet Leg because it kind of has. No, I'm serious because they're kind of a simple kind of. It sounded like her, but it's not. I found out it's not.
Okay.
So. Okay, so
number one.
Was that your number one or number two?
That was my number two.
Okay. My number one is an old band, 80s band, Modern English. Their album is 1, 2, 3, 4. And the album was produced by Mario McNulty. He has worked with David Bowie, Lou Reed, Nine Inch Nails. Mixed by Senzo Townsend and mastered at Abbey Road. It's their 9th album since their debut in '81 with Mesh and Lace. And it retains that classic modern English sound with their post-punk new wave with a little bite to it. Their last album was 8 years ago with the original members. And before that, it was 30 years before that. Because the lead singer, Robbie Gray, I think he recorded some albums himself under the name Modern English. So the band has been back for a while now. And it's Robbie Gray, Michael Conroy is bass. We interviewed him a couple years ago. And I was trying to get him to like send us audio or something, but that was a couple of days ago. Talking about the album. Maybe we'll get it, and maybe I'll put it in here.
Right.
Hello, Mick Conroy from Modern English here with a tiny bit of info on the songs Not My Leader and Crazy Lovers, both on our latest LP, 1, 2, 3, 4. I originally wrote Not My Leader, the music for, on my houseboat in England, very tiny little boats. I sent the song to Robbie, who was in Thailand. He sent back some vocals. I started to arrange the song's structure. Then we went to California to our sound guy, Stephen Kravok's studio with the band, recorded it there. Then I took it back to England and we went to, I went to Senzo Townsend's studio, Decoy, just up the road from me and Robbie in Suffolk. I did the Mellotron parts there. It's all good fun. The lyrics Rob wrote, they are basically about, is what it says on the tin, not my leader. Whereas Crazy Lovers, on the other hand, that was pretty much all written on the boats, all the parts. It was quite good fun to do. Robbie wrote lyrics for it as well, and to me it's quite obvious what that song's about. I'd ended up with my now wife living on the boats with me. I had so much fun doing that song. It was during COVID, so I had to vacate my studio up the road and move minimal amounts of gear into my galley, as they call it on a boat, but we're not really boaty people, so we just call it the kitchen. So at 4 o'clock every day I had to clear up, make room for us to start making dinner. One interesting thing about that song, Crazy Lovers, originally when I wrote it, it was quite slow. Mario McNulty, the guy who produced that song and produced the album, he suggested that we try that song speeding the whole thing up. So it went from being quite a slow, groovy number to, quite an up-tempo pop type song. I think it worked out. It was quite good. We didn't have to change any of the music whatsoever. Just Robbie had to sing faster.
We have Gary McDowell, guitar, and Steve Walker on keyboards. So, as you can see, there's no drummer in this band. I guess it's a drum machine. The first track, Long in the Tooth, it actually kicks in with a 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the name of the album. A swirling guitar, keyboards, distorted vocals, and it's like Robbie singing through a megaphone. And he uses this effect more effectively on the third track, Not Fake. But this album will bring you back to the 80s. If you've never heard of Modern English, you probably have and didn't know it.
Right.
They had a massive hit in 1982 with I'll Melt With You. And I mean, it's in a Hershey's bar commercial right now. I just saw it the other night. So if you see this Hershey bars commercial and you hear a song, I'll stop the world and melt with you, that's the lyric. That's them. That's Modern English. They were also, I'll Melt With You was also one show I loved that was canceled was Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. And the very last episode was that song. Yeah.
Nice.
And I got to meet Jane Levy, and she decided not to do autograph shows anymore after I have met her. So, yeah. Anyway, so, and they were also the film Valley Girl.
Yep.
That song was in that.
Yep.
Now, the album's a perfect length, 10 songs, 37 minutes. Each song is great, no filler. Each song is pretty unique on its own, and it sounds fresh, like 80s fresh. I'm serious. So it's sometimes hard to listen to new music and not go, that sounds like this, that sounds like that, and I do that a lot, you know.
Right.
But this album is remarkably original and new sounding, and like it came out of the 80s, though. You know, as if it's a lost album.
Right. Maybe it is.
Now, with that being said, the only song I found sounding like other songs was the song I Know Your Soul, which in some parts reminded me of David Bowie's Heroes, The Cure's Just Like Heaven, and their own song I'll Melt With You. So yeah, they would sound like themselves, you know. Probably my favorite song is Crazy Lovers. The song is just great vocally, the way it comes together, and the songs on the album are not overly. They're without sounding, you know, like they're simple. They're simple. They're not complicated songs, and sometimes that's a good thing, you know.
Yep.
Except for, you know, We Let the Dogs Out. That's a little too simple a song for me.
Who Let the Dogs Out?
Who Let the Dogs Out?
By the Baha Men?
Yeah. It's not on this album, but... and then there's more in-your-face songs. Like, they're a little cluttered musically. Exploding, of course. Out to Lunch. And I've just found another new word. Dark wave. I guess it's a harder new wave sound called dark wave.
All right.
So you got bedroom music, chamber
pop,
and
bedroom pop,
and dark wave.
Dark wave. Yeah.
There you go. Learning a lot today.
Yeah.
So here's a little bit of how the album started. Conroy and Gray, you know, the bass player and singer, started coming up with the music for 1-2-3 during the spring 2020 COVID pandemic, the lockdown. They were swapping ideas back and forth. Gray says we were all bored, stiff, because you couldn't do anything. The music started happening really quickly. Conroy set up a temporary home studio in Suffolk, England, with gear arranged in a tiny kitchen area. He said once I'd set up, that meant you couldn't open the fridge door. And I found myself inspired by the first Susie and the Banshees album and the David Bowie records featuring Mick Ronson. So maybe that's why that one song sounds to me like Heroes a little bit.
Right.
After some time having amassed a batch of fresh songs, restrictions loosened enough so modern English could gather together, so they could gather together and go over this new music. And the band deliberately went for a raw-sounding affair that was more energetic. They recorded the album in just a few takes with minimal overdubs in a residential studio in upstate New York. Gray says we wanted some edge to it, live drums, and getting the feel of moving from verse to chorus with everything playing, and it sounds like a live album. So some other songs on the album I love are also favorites of the lead singer, Not My Leader. Robbie says it was inspired by the fact that it seemed like everybody in charge of the world was completely incompetent. I remember first coming to America in the early 80s. We had Margaret Thatcher and you had Ronald Reagan. And then fast forward to today and the T word, I'm not going to say, well, we'll say Donald Trump and Boris Yeltsin. This is quoting him. It's the same thing 40 years later. And he says, really, it's the same old shit. So Not My Leader, that was written about that. Other favorites of mine are Not Fake. He says, I like quoting all the things I don't like. And Long in the Tooth, a song about getting older. It says what it needs to, and it gets its message across. Robbie says, for a lyricist, that's a very important thing. So that's my number one album, Modern English 1, 2, 3, 4. Check it out.
All right. My number one album, probably no surprise. It's, have the Grammys happened yet?
No.
Okay. So this one's up for Best Rock Album of 2024.
Okay.
Saviors by Green Day.
Okay.
Great album. Something that you touched on in your review there of Modern English. Green Day doesn't try to do, too much with their albums. Mm-hmm. A lot of their tracks are 2.5 to 3 minutes long, and that's been a consistent thing for them throughout their career. And it works because you don't get a lot of repetition. You don't get a lot of repeat. You don't get boredom. It's just good music that are paced out well and easy to listen to. Similar to a lot of my lists, they were on tour last year, so they put out a new album for the tour, which is typical of a lot of bands these days. But I wasn't planning to see them. I'd like to at some point, but when I first put the album on, I'm like, wow, this kind of takes me all the way back to like Dookie days, which surprised me because, American Idiot was pretty good, but then they had some of those other, like 21 Guns, I think was one of the ones that was out there.
Well, and then they had the 3 albums. They had each of their pictures on them. Yeah,
and it was, I don't know, it was a different...
Uno, Dos, Tres.
Yeah.
That's what it was called.
Yeah. And it was Green Day. You could tell it was Green Day, but it had a softer kind of feel to it. So this was nice to kind of go back to their more upbeat rock feel. But just a great album. I mean, I said my top 3 were interchangeable. This one, though, I've played the most of the 3, and I think that's what led me to kind of pick it as my number one album for 2024. I don't know if you listened to it or not, but...
I listened to it when it came out. But I love I think it's the first track, The American Dream Is Killing Me.
Yes, that's a great song, yes.
And I have them as an honorable mention.
Okay.
But I have here, like AC/DC, all their songs now sound the same to me.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
And they should do a country album.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
So I have 2 other very brief honorable mentions. Kate Hudson, album called Glorious, which is her first album. And I'm interested to see, hopefully this isn't her only album, because most people don't know, but like even Scarlett Johansson put out an album 10 years ago. Right. And never put out another. I think she's on the soundtrack of like those Sing movies, right? She's singing on there, but Scarlett put out an album of Tom Waits songs and hasn't put out anything yet. Or after that.
Right.
So Kate, maybe this is her one and done. I think it's a really good album. And then this is kind of a guilty pleasure, Sabrina Carpenter. Short and sweet. It's not just pop music, and it's definitely not for kids again.
Right.
Oh my God, my stomach. I want to say she was probably on a Disney show or something.
Right.
So people, as people get old, actors get older, and if they go into music or whatever, they're adults now, and
there's a misconception that there's still going to be that little girl or little boy that was on the Disney Channel.
Yeah. I mean, some of these songs are they're not raunchy. They're not they're intelligently written and actually freaking hilarious, lyrically.
Yeah.
The one song she mentions about her ex-boyfriend, whacking off to Leonard Cohen, another artist. I mean, come on. I was laughing out loud if you listen to the lyrics,
Yeah.
So anyway, those are honorable mentions, and we named the podcast, or I did, after, you know, people saying there's no good music, but, you know, look at what we just told you about. And yeah, some of the stuff is like Taylor Swift is so popular, you know, but some of the other stuff, I mean, have you heard of Iron and Wine? Have you heard of, you know, even some of the other older bands like the Offspring? You know, it depends on how old you are.
Mm-hmm. Or
maybe even someone my age has never listened to the Offspring.
Right.
You know, like Gracie Abrams, you know, she was on SNL, but maybe people don't watch it, you know. So, and like I said, Jeremy listens to music too all the time, but, you know, I think I listen to it a little too much. But I kind of know what I think. Both of us have good musical ears, I think. And over the years, I've gone back and forth, because I started out when I was a kid listening to probably like Kenny Rogers and stuff my mom listened to, Elvis. Then I got into the more rock, and then I got into, you know, the disco. So, and then new wave. And so I'm back and forth. And I think I'm listening to more pop, I think, now than I used to.
I'd agree with that, for me as well.
Yeah. And, you know, your musical tastes change over time. And I also think one person may think an album is horrible. Like Sabrina Carpenter, they may listen to him like, what is this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's you know, it's what you like and what your ears hear, and I always say what moves you, you know, what like makes you think or just makes you happy.
Right.
Like if I listen to a song and I'm like, the lyrics make me like freaking laugh, you know, that's memorable to me, you know, did something. That artist did something, you know.
Yeah.
So if you want to contact us, nogoodmusicpodcast@gmail.com. You know, email us, tell us that you just say, I listen to your podcast, you know, I really like it. That's all you have to say. Or tell us if you don't like it or what you don't, you know. Well, we're good with being critiqued, because we're getting a lot more listeners. Hope they're listening to the entire episodes. I mean, if you're listening to me right now, you've listened.
You made it.
You made it to the end. If you're a musician, singer, songwriter, band, you have some fairly new music, you want to send us a song, if you have a press release on an album or anything, or your publicist, email us. We'll listen to it, and we may feature it on our regular show, which we have Give It a Listen. So anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and always remember, turn off that TV
and turn up the music.
You've been listening to No Good Music. Today's show was produced by Rob J. Lilly and recorded live and unedited at the Did You Say 7 Studios in Washington, New Jersey. You can find No Good Music on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and almost anywhere you listen to podcasts. Intro and exit music by the band 99%.
You need some more beer.